Hello, everybody. Portly Paladin here with another update. I think I say that every week, but it's true. That's what I'm doing a weekly update, so it's alright, I guess. But yeah, uh, 471 again this week. No weight lost. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm very surprised that I'm still at 471 and not higher. The reason I say that, um, I think I've mentioned it on here before, but I honestly don't remember because I don't keep a transcript of what I've said or anything like that. But I've been out of work for quite a long time. Uh, I was out of work since originally March of 2010 was the first time I lost work, and went all the way through until last November when I got a job on a temporary basis um, with a company doing applications for a prepaid debit card. Did that for a few months, and then lucked into a permanent position. So I left the temporary position to take the permanent position. The permanent position was just not a good fit at all in any respect. Um, I toughed it out and did my best, but I just did not know the business that I was working in. It was in apparel decoration, screen printing, things like that, and it just did not work out. Not at all. Not even close. So they did end up letting me go. So then here I was floating back in the ether again with no income, back on unemployment again. Not happy about it at all. Making less than I was used to making because I went from being on unemployment through Kentucky to being on unemployment through Ohio and blah, 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 whatever. And it was kind of tight and it was difficult and it was hard. Really hard, actually, for quite a while. And I've been working very hard on finding a job, doing everything I could to get a job in any capacity whatsoever. I'm used to making, roughly $12 an hour, so I was looking for everything as low as like $9 an hour. Anything that I thought would pay at least what I was making on unemployment and had, not too far away and moderately decent hours, I was applying for everything that I could physically accomplish and had some sort of experience or knowledge of whatsoever. And it wasn't really working out. Nothing that I went for was I taken. Now, I really hate to say this, but I have a sneaking suspicion it's because of my weight. I would talk to someone over the phone and do a pre-screen interview over the phone. They would seem very excited, very interested, talk about my qualifications and my experience and be very interested in speaking with me. I would show up for a face-to-face interview, and their faces would sort of drop when they'd see me, almost as if, whoa, I didn't realize you were fat, this doesn't work. They never actually said anything, of course, but I just got that feeling. And of course, after I'd have the interview, they would end up letting me know that they chose to go with someone else, or they found a better candidate, or whatever it is, whatever their excuse was, and I'd go back to looking. Well, recently, I did find a job. It's basically doing customer service, which is what I've done for quite a long time. Um, it's not the best pay in the world, but it's more than I'm making on unemployment. It's horrendous hours. I hate the hours, but it's a job, so I can't really say much about it right now. And what makes the hours horrendous is it basically means that I'm going to be able to see my wife about an hour a day. I don't like that. I like spending time with my wife. I like, relaxing with her and talking, kind of going over our day and watching TV shows together, things like that. And it's just not going to happen now. Just the nature of the shift means I'm only going to have a few hours in the morning to get a few things done, and then a few hours in the maybe like an hour or two in the morning, and maybe an hour to an hour and a half in the evening. Uh, is about all I'm going to get, I think. So that's going to make things difficult for some of my hobbies that I enjoy doing, um, and just having that time to sort of recharge, I guess. So I'm not really sure how this is going to work out, but um, I'm going to make it work because it's a job. But the reason I bring that up is goes back to the fact that I haven't lost any weight this week, and that I'm very surprised that I haven't gained, because this has got to have been the single worst week of my life. Period. More stress in the last few days than I've ever managed to deal with in my entire 34 years. It has really, really tested my resolve more than anything. It started out fairly innocuous. I mean, I do these videos on Friday, so in terms of the video, I always assume a week being from Thursday to Thursday. It started out pretty innocuous. My Thursday was okay. It was kind of depressing a little bit because I do some gaming on Thursdays in the afternoons that I'm now not going to be able to do because I'm working, which is fine. But it kind of had that little bit of a sad depression when I had to tell everybody that I wasn't going to be able to play with them anymore and that they were going to have to move on without me. That was a little bit hard to deal with. And then Friday was okay. I didn't do anything Friday. I didn't go anywhere. My car has been broken down. It had a bad exhaust, and I wasn't able to drive it, so I wasn't able to go anywhere on Thursday or Friday. Saturday was the most amazing day ever, though. My wife and I's anniversary was back on October 1st. We didn't have any money because of the whole issue to do anything. Our family realized that and decided to do something for us since we couldn't do anything for ourselves. And they got us a hotel room in a hotel sort of locally, and like one of the Visa gift cards with some cash on it. So that way we could go ahead and at least spend a night out and away from the house, kind of forget about all the things we've been dealing with, all the stress we've been dealing with. And that was really amazing. It was great. The hotel room was gorgeous. A good friend of mine works there at the hotel, and he kind of like hooked us up with a few things while we were there. So that was really nice of him. I really appreciate that, Will. It's great. You're awesome. You made my sister's day when she saw that change in the bill, so that was awesome too. I appreciate that. If you don't want me to keep that in there, let me know and I'll take it out. But yeah, so there we go. That was great. Sunday morning was awesome. We got to go down and have a nice breakfast at the hotel, and went back up to the room, had another little nap, couple hours, got up, got dressed. We used the gift card 2 ways. For the night before, we went out for dinner, and then the next day, one of our things that we used to love to do is go to the local wings place, Buffalo Wings and Rings. Buffalo Wild Wings, BW3s as most people call it, and get some hot wings and come home and watch some football, drink some beer, that sort of thing. We did that because Sunday is kind of our cheat day. So we went ahead and did that. That was good. That was great. That was an awesome. Fortunately, my team here didn't win. They lost that day, but that's about the only bad thing that happened between Friday through Sunday. Then Monday rolls around. Monday was an okay day, I guess. Nothing major happened. It was just kind of, I don't know. It was just weird. It felt ominous, if that makes sense. Nothing at all major happened on Monday in any way. Tuesday rolls around, and it was already a stressful day because a few things were going on with family members and stuff. And so I had this stress level in my face, like, oh, something's going to happen. Oh, let me go back to Monday. Like I was saying, we had the exhaust problem. So I had our friend come over, and we worked on my car, got it fixed. Fixed the exhaust. He helped me out. I really appreciated it. And then I just tested it, drove it around a little bit, seemed great. I was like, all right, perfect. Love it. My car's back. I'm good to go for when I start work next Monday. Tuesday, like I said, comes up, and it's like, starts off very stressful because some family members were having some issues and some things going on with them, and so there was very huge stress right in the morning, right in the beginning of the morning. And so that had really had my blood pumping and my blood pressure up, and things were just not going well that morning because I had this huge amount of stress right there on my back of my head. That sort of lessened a little bit when we got some good news about things, but it was still kind of there. So then I was like, now Now that the stress is a little bit gone, let me run a few errands now that I have my car back. And that's when I realized that my car actually wasn't completely perfect. It was running kind of strange. Just literally ran like 2 minutes up the street to one of the locations I had to run errands at, and I'm like, it doesn't feel right. Feels weird. So then I was like, let's just skip these errands. Let's go straight home, and we'll see if I can't figure out what's going on with the car and get it fixed again. Or maybe the fix yesterday didn't work. So I got home, kind of wrote down the things it was doing, got a hold of a friend of mine that is an actual certified mechanic, and told him what was going on. He's like, I think you should bring it in. I'm working at the shop today. Come on in. I'll just check it out for you free of charge. We'll see what's going on, and we'll go from there. I was like, all right, that's great. So it's kind of a far drive, about 25 miles. So I drive out to where he's at and show up, and he's like, all right, so tell me again what's going on. I explain it to him. Oh, the steering's tight, and it's kind of loud, and it just doesn't, it's not reacting right. It's idling high. It's doing all these different things. And he's like, okay. Pulls it in. Him and another guy are looking at it for a while, and he comes out and he's like, I don't have good news for you, man. I'm sorry, but it's just not good news. He's like, come on out. I want to show you what's going on. The car was up on the lift. He goes underneath and proceeds to show me underneath. And immediately, first thing I see is a massive puddle under the car. That puddle was oil and transmission, or oil and power steering fluid, both of which were leaking tremendously. So he points out all these different things that are wrong. Oh, look here, you got this massive oil leak, your head gasket's bulging, your tie rod ends are about to pop, you got a broken transmission mount, you've got this, you've got that, and he just starts listing off a laundry list of problems. And he basically tells me, your car's shot. It's old enough, it's a 94, it's really not worth fixing. It's going to cost more to fix it than the car is worth. I recommend to you to just move on. This car is not safe to drive. If it's not, I'm amazed you made it here without hurting yourself or someone else. He's like, these tie rods, they're going to go at any minute. If you throw a tie rod, it could just completely ruin the engine. It could cause you to crash. It could, all these different massive major things can happen at any moment if you drive this car. That was, wow. That took me from a stress level of here to here, knowing that I start a brand new job on Monday and now have no way to get there. So I come home after, getting a ride from my mom. Actually drove out and picked me up and brought me home. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. That's one thing I need to mention right now before I forget and move on. Is over the last several months especially, but really honestly the last 2 years, my family and friends have helped me in so many ways I will never be able to repay. It's just amazing the outpouring of support that I've had. I just can't even articulate it really. It's just ridiculous. And I want to say thank you to every single person who has helped me in even the smallest way. If you've given me $2 to go do something, or when I needed to buy something and couldn't quite make it, and you've given me $2. If you've given me a ride somewhere, if you've just given me a minute to talk just to get things out and off my chest. If you've just patted me on the back and whatever. I mean, just every little itty-bitty thing you've done in the last 2 months to kind of support me and help me out. I appreciate every single bit of it. And I'll never be able to repay you. Never. It's just, you don't understand what it means to have that support. Sorry. But anyway. So, yeah, that happened. Not having a car. Not knowing how to get to my new job. And then, right after that, I have to call the unemployment office because I had received some sort of correspondence from them electronically. And I needed to know what that was because I couldn't access it through my computer. Every time I tried to access it, it gave me an error. So I called up to find out what it was, only to find out that actually what it was is me losing unemployment. See, apparently, I've been on unemployment so long that I got what's called a federal extension, and that's benefits coming directly from the federal government. Whenever you go on unemployment, a couple things have to happen. I have to report to places I work for and the time and money that I've made at those locations. Those locations have to do the same thing. In my case, apparently that didn't happen. Sorry. When I first applied for unemployment, that didn't happen. They didn't actually report the amount of hours I worked there or the amount of money I made there or anything like that. So, periodically, companies are forced to report that information for tax purposes. And so apparently, some point since April, when I actually in April when I actually filed unemployment, and now they were forced to do that and put all the information in or send all the information in, and all that got logged, and they're like, "Oh look, you did work all these different hours, so you actually qualified for Ohio State benefits instead of having to go off of an old claim, which is what they had done previously." And so as soon as that happens, and you might be eligible for a state-based benefit, your federal benefits just cease. They stop immediately, which that happened to me on Friday. The day that I file my claims is Sundays. So therefore, when I filed my claim on Sunday, not knowing what was going on because I couldn't access this file that it kept trying to send me, I actually didn't get paid for that. So, and I'm not going to get paid for it. I have to wait for the unemployment office to do its normal application for benefits as if I just started instead of starting in April. So that process takes around 3 weeks. So there's a darn good chance that, actually there is a very good chance, that I'm not going to get any money for another 3 to 4 months. Now again, I start work on Monday, so eventually I'll get money from them from just working there. But most places that you work at, you have to work 2 weeks before you get a paycheck, or somewhere along those lines. So yeah, the chances of me getting a paycheck is going to be, or it's before 3 weeks, is ridiculous. We're very slim. I'm just hoping like heck that the place I'm going to work at actually pays weekly and not bi-weekly, but that hope is very slim because almost nobody does that anymore. And if they do pay weekly and not bi-weekly, then I might get paid at the end of next week. I might have to wait another week after that, so it's just all of this together, losing a car, losing my income, all income that I have zero income right now, was a huge stressor. It sent me into a tailspin that I am amazed that I survived. I have an addicting personality in some respects. I've never been a person that was addicted to any sort of, weird substance like alcohol. I've never touched a drug in my life. I've had a few drinks, sure, but I've never touched any sort of drugs or anything. We have a bit of a liquor cabinet here in the house. We have, a little selection for when people come over. We can offer drinks or whatever, or sometimes, on the weekend we'll just have a drink or something just as we're watching a movie or TV. And the draw to go over there and have a few drinks and just sort of numb everything and just go to bed and forget about it all was very strong. Very strong. And I didn't do it. I didn't even have a drop. I pushed through it and moved on. The one thing I did do, however, is I ate a lot. Now, this happened on Tuesday. Yesterday was Wednesday. I don't even think I thought of the word point yesterday. I just thought food and just shoved it in. I guess that was my reaction to the situation. Instead of drinking or resorting to drugs or something like that, maybe food is my drug. Quite possible, quite sure it is actually, but yeah, I went that route, just stuffed my face. I ate horribly yesterday. kind of very disappointed in myself after the fact. But in the end, everything actually kind of worked out a little bit. My mom, bless her very much, she is out of work right now because on an injury. Has been for a while. Started going through a lot of troubles as well. But she doesn't go anywhere during the day. So she has a car that she's not using. So she is letting me use that car. So that I can actually get back and forth to work at my new job starting on Monday. And, sorry. There we go. It's bugging me. My bad. So that's great. I will actually be able to get back and forth to work now. At least for a few weeks before she starts needing the car again. Because if she has that injury, she does have doctor's appointments that she has to go to a couple of times a month. So far in October, she's pretty much okay, she told me. In November, though, she does have quite a few doctor's appointments that she's trying to get rides for, but, there may be times when she needs her car back, so that's going to be a little difficult, but yeah, so that's where I am right now. It's been very hard. Very, very hard. And I think that things like this, going through plans like this weight loss and everything else, you get tested. And this was probably my biggest test, and so far I kind of failed. If yesterday is any evidence, but at the same time, I think I did okay. I mean, I didn't gain any weight this week, so there's that. And as of today, I'm back on track. I'm not eating horribly today like I did yesterday. And I think, honestly, like, a slip here and there doesn't really hurt anything in the end. It's basically like you got to give yourself your moment of weakness, I guess. There are times when you're going to have issues and you're going to slip a little bit, and just move on from it and deal with it. There are days when I will give in to temptation and I will have something I shouldn't. It happens a lot at the game store. I'll be at the game store and I'm gaming along and I'm drinking my bottled water and having a good time. And then I go up to get another bottle of water and I look and I go, you know what? Snickers bar looks really good. If I had a decent week, I could probably handle a Snickers bar. And I'll go ahead and get one. And I'll eat it now, and it'll be good, don't get me wrong. And then I'll sit there and I'll be kind of hard on myself. And the first thought that pops through my head is, well, I just screwed up. Why can't I just screw up again? And I've got to really be with myself and be aware that that is not a good plan. It's not something that's sustainable. Can't keep doing that. So, yeah. That's kind of the way you got to look at things, I guess. Alright, now in terms of food and cooking and whatnot this week, I don't really have a whole lot. The one thing I do want to talk about a little bit is something that I actually been talking about a little bit recently. It's kind of dieting related, kind of not. And that's the people that are afraid of oil. There's this prevalence these days of, if you're going to cook something, you've got to cook it in Teflon. You've got to cook it in non-stick. It's got to be as crazy non-stick and perfect as possible so you can use no oil because it's so much healthier. And that's a bunch of crap, really. Like, for example, if you're cooking a piece of meat and you put some oil in the pan and you fry it in that oil, if you then dab that piece of meat off when you're done, guess what? It's actually going to be the same as if you started with no oil. It's not going to absorb any oil because it has nothing to absorb oil with. It's just protein. It's just a piece of meat. If it was something that can absorb oil, like breading or something, then yeah, then it's going to get greasy. It's going to actually absorb oil. But I hate that. It really drives me crazy. The people out there that do that sort of thing. Oh, it's got to be this perfect nonstick skillet because if I cook my pork chop for dinner and I can't use any oil then because it's going to suck it all up and I'm going to eat that and it's going to be in my arteries. That's a bunch of crap. So it's a huge bunch of crap. I mean, frying, like deep frying, is actually okay if you do it right. Even with the breading, it's going to absorb some oil, sure. But if you have the right temperature oil with the right temperature food and you put it in there for the right amount of time, there's going to be very minimal oil absorption into like your breading or whatever. Basically when you're deep frying, it's really like hot wings. People think they're horrible because you deep fry them first. No, they're horrible because there's a decent amount of fat in the chicken. Deep frying them actually is going to get the fat out of the chicken more than most other things. That's why the skin gets so crispy when you deep fry it, is it's rendering all the fat out of that skin. You know, because when you're frying, when you're deep frying, the reason you see all the bubbles is it's pulling the moisture and everything out of the meat, and that's what's bubbling. And so when it's steaming like that, you actually sort of almost get like a sheath of steam around the piece of meat or whatever it is that kind of keeps the oil from absorbing. It's very thin, like a molecule thick, but it keeps the oil from absorbing into the meat because it's pushing out the whole time. Now, if you leave it in too long and all the moisture goes away, then it's going to start sucking that freaking oil right in. So you've got to follow your directions on your recipe and cook things correctly at the right temperature at the right time, and do it the right way. It's not something I recommend you do all the time anyway, because like I said, it is going to absorb some oil. But there's no reason to worry about oil, and especially if you do good oil. Like when I cook my dinners, last night for example, I made fried, sautéed up, pan roasted, whatever you want to call it, a couple of pieces of chicken breast, the thin ones I talked about previously, and just put about a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons worth of olive oil into the pan. Why? Because it ends up getting that freaking meat nice and brown, which makes it have a ton more flavor than if I just threw it into a dry pan. Now, one of the things I do like to do sometimes, if I don't want a lot of oil, is I'll brush the oil directly onto the meat and then season it up and then throw it in the pan. That works out pretty well. You don't get quite the same kind of browning, but you do get some. And then when you're done, again, pat it off with a piece of paper towel, get rid of that extra oil, you're good to go. It's pretty healthy. That's pretty much the way it is. It's one of the things that just drives me nuts. I just hate that when people are like, oh, don't put any oil in mine. I'm on a diet. Oh, I can't have that extra oil. You're not going to eat the extra oil. Shut up. Get out of my face. Just stop being an idiot about it. It just drives me crazy. Another thing I want to talk about is the use of ground turkey or ground chicken in the place of ground beef. In some things, you can just do it straight up. Like, for example, I just made a big pot of chili as a thank you to the friend of mine who fixed my car. And when I did that and I went to the grocery store, I was going to do ground beef because they're not dieters like me, so I was going to make it for them. But when I get to the store, they had ground turkey on sale, and it was a lot cheaper than the ground beef, so I opted for the ground turkey. You could substitute, like in something like that, or like a casserole, you can substitute straight up without having to do anything extra. And it's not going to be a big deal. If you're going to do something like a meatloaf or a burger or something like that, where it's just basically just a straight up piece of meat, that you're replacing the beef with ground turkey or chicken, what you need to do is you need to do something to that meat to hold on to the moisture. Otherwise, or at least give it moisture. Otherwise, what's going to happen is it's going to end up getting dry and mealy. That's what happens when you overcook and get dry turkey or chicken. Like if you've ever had like a chicken breast that's been way overcooked, now it's kind of like really dry and sort of mealy. That's what's going to happen with your burger or your meatloaf or whatever. So what I'm going to recommend is to fix that. There's a couple ways to do that. What I do is, first thing I do is I mince up onion really fine. Food processor is perfect for this. Like if you have like a little mini chopper or something, or one of those slap chop type things, or whatever it is, or just use a knife. If your knife skills are up to par, just mince it up as small as you can. Mix that into your meat. tons of water and onion, and as the burger starts cooking, it's going to start releasing, and it's going to help keep your burger moist. Second thing you can do is something that's called a panade. It's something I learned from America's Test Kitchen, one of my favorite cooking shows. Take one piece of bread, soak it in maybe a tablespoon or so of milk, and just let it sit and soak all of that milk up, and it'll get really soggy. Once it gets really soggy, then you swish it all up and get it all like into like a paste almost, and you mix that in with your meat. That, again, will do a couple of things. The milk itself is going to help keep the meat moist, and then as the moisture from that starts kind of going off, it's going to start sucking in the extra moisture because the bread will start getting dry. So it'll keep your burger or meatloaf or whatever moist that way. Anytime I do a meatloaf, whether it's beef or turkey or chicken or whatever it is, I use the panade method, because even like, regular ground beef, as a meatloaf, when you're roasting it in the oven for a decent amount of time, it's going to start getting kind of dry. And you need kind of a binder anyway, so I use a couple pieces of bread, maybe a quarter cup of milk and an egg, kind of mix it all together and squish it all up, and put that through my meat. Toss it in real good. You can do the same thing with a burger. I wouldn't recommend the egg, because eggs are, one, extra fat because of the yolk, and the white actually has like a drying agent to it, so it'll dry things out anyway. That's how you can make meringues that turn out dry, because they naturally have a drying agent in them. But yeah, the burger, actually I do the panade and the onion together. I think it works out really well, and it keeps it nice and moist. So next time you make a burger or meatloaf or something and you want to substitute in turkey, more power to you. I totally enjoy that. I don't really eat very much red meat anymore, even though I used to eat a ton of it. So I understand if you want to sub things out, go for it, enjoy it. Just make sure that you enjoy the actual burger or meatloaf by doing something like substituting in the panade and the onion to give it some extra moisture. You can do onion, or you can do mushrooms if you're a mushroom person. Chop those up really fine also. Again, you can use a food processor. Mix those in. Mushrooms are full of water, so when you start grilling off that burger or cooking your meatloaf, they're going to start exuding their moisture, which will keep everything moist. And on top of that, mushrooms are full of umami. If you're not familiar with umami, there are several types of taste. There's bitter, sweet, salty, and things like that. Well, umami is the savory flavor, sort of meaty. So mushrooms have a ton of that. You can put in mushrooms to get a little bit of flavor, and the onions, and even the panade. What I would do if you wanted to do that, you give yourself a bit of like a tons of meaty flavor. Make your panade with a little bit of milk, and then substitute in for some of the milk a little bit of Worcestershire sauce and a little bit of soy sauce. Squish that in there. Chop up your onions real fine. Chop up your mushrooms real fine. Mix everything together into your ground turkey. Grill it off. It's going to be a very meaty tasting burger. I guarantee it. The umami in soy sauce, mushrooms, and Worcestershire sauce is off the charts. Put all three of those things in there. It's going to taste so good. You're not even going to miss the beef. So that's my tip for this week. Try that recipe-ish type thing that I threw up there, and I think you're going to love it. So that's it for this week. It's been a half an hour. I'm done talking, done whining. Time for me to deal with my day and keep waging the war against my waistline. So you do the same thing, and we'll see you next week.